coming into college, especially my sophomore year, which is when I joined the frat, because I had torn my ACL, it was just something to kind of lean on, right? And it was a fallacy in a sort of sense, because it's really not something to lean on. They always talk about brotherhood, but it's not really built on a foundation to support each other. You spend your whole first semester in it getting torn down, getting torn to pieces. It's like creating a team without necessarily like a real coach and without necessarily a huge culture behind it. It's definitely rooted in just having the most fun you can, and women for sure.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Masking Tapes. I'm your host, Carolina Hidalgo-McCabe. Today, I'm joined by none other than my younger cousin, Joey. And other than being a phenomenal human being, Joey's extremely qualified for this podcast because he's emblematic of what's happening with a lot of young men in America today. Together, we're diving into topics that have not yet been covered on this podcast, including what it's like to rush a frat, what it's like to go to a college that you thought would be right for you and end up coming back home. What's the role of catch in helping men process their emotions today? This conversation is both lighthearted and profound, and I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as we did. So, Joey, you told me that you watched something before you came here. What was it?
I just wanted to bring the most masculinity that I could to Lena's podcast and be authentic. So I made sure that I watched Rocky IV before I came over. I listened to some Nirvana. I was listening to Stairway to Heaven. So I was getting amped up. You can ask Lena. I came in here with an energy drink. So I'm ready, guys. I'm ready for this.
You came in here amped up.
Amped up.
What made you come on this podcast?
Lena, first of all, I think it's a great idea. I was just telling Lena how she could go big time with it. But I just think it's a cool concept. And the fact that, I can be one of the first people on is cool. I mean, I definitely have little qualification, but I have been a man for 20 years now. So it's exciting. I'm excited to say what's on my mind.
Have you been a man for all 20 years?
All 20 years. Yeah, guys.
You were a man.
I'm proud of that. Yeah.
Not a boy.
Not a boy. No. Oh, no. Well, okay. Yeah. I was probably a man, a couple months ago, maybe?
Yeah.
So that sounds good.
What about when your prefrontal cortex develops?
When is that?
At like 27.
I'm still working on my manhood, guys. I'm changing the way that I said that. I'm never stop working. I'm going to keep working towards it.
That's awesome. So, Joey, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I've gotten asked this question twice today now.
The first was for an interview.
Yeah. And so a little bit about myself. Well, other than the fact that I've been a man for 20 years. I'm definitely in a little bit of a transitional period. I went to the University of Miami. I'm back here now, living life, making decisions. And so a little bit about me is that I love basketball. I played it for most of my life. Definitely looking to keep that as part of it. I don't know what else to say to that. And I'm hardworking. I'm determined. I keep resorting back to the interview questions.
No, not a job interview. So, Joey, what is happening with young men right now?
I think that, this is definitely something I've experienced recently. I think young men are starting to feel maybe not inadequate, but starting to question themselves and starting to really feel a lot of the pressures around them. And that I think people are starting to get lonely. I could definitely speak to that. I think it's a hard environment, so much has been pushed towards supporting women, which is great. But I think that men have definitely kind of gotten forgotten about, you know what I'm saying, on the back end of things.
So what would you say is the hardest thing about being a man right now?
I would say, especially in the position I am, I think it's a lot of questioning myself and maybe a bit of self-doubt. I would say I'm constantly I was stressed just about being able to provide and just being successful in life and what my future looks like. And so, it's exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking.
Yeah, that's true. And what does it mean to be a successful man?
Okay. That's a good question. A successful man means being a great leader, being able to provide for those that you keep close to you, being unwavering in the face of obstacles and things like that. Just being like a pillar.
Yeah. And do you feel like you've been that, or who have you learned that from?
My go-to would obviously be my dad. I don't feel like I'm really there yet. I feel like you spend a lot of your life working towards that and being able to be that kind of rock. But I would definitely say I learned it from my dad, and he's probably my best example of how to be a man. Especially with what he's going through now. Just for a little context, this is his second bout with cancer, and just the way that he's been, his mentality and everything, like going forward, just walking through the fire. I feel like it's been super inspirational. He's also been there for me through my hard times. And so it's making me realize, like, that's what I aspire to be. And that's kind of the man that I would want to be for those around me.
That's really hard to deal with. And you're an only child too. On my last episode of this podcast, I talked to someone who also was struggling with the health of their father. How do you cope with that as a man? Who do you go to talk about that? And what model do you see specifically that your dad has like put forth for you?
I would say, for talking about it, it's definitely been difficult. I've been blessed with having a great girlfriend who's been there for me. And also, the really cool thing about it is my friends know my dad really well. So talking to them about it has been good, and everyone's been really supportive. And I would say, as far as my dad's model has been, he has continuously put out a positive mindset about everything. And I think that's really good for kind of protecting those around you in his selflessness, because, as he's going through it, he's really making sure that we all know everything's going to be okay. Because, we're the people that freak out around him. And so I would say that's been super inspirational to see that. And just like, he has all these like whiteboards in his room, and he writes all this stuff. And we both have the home gym in the garage, and I always see what he writes down, and it's, inspirational stuff. And I think it's really good for preparing me for what I've been going through in my transition too.
Yeah.
So.
And can you tell us a little bit about your transition right now? What that journey's been like?
It's definitely been an interesting one. So, I was at such a great school, and I loved it there. But it just wasn't the right fit, and it didn't end up working out. And so now I'm back here, and there's a lot of doubt that goes on in your mind and in the people around me's mind. And so you just gotta be able to handle that. I came back, and I'm going to community college for a couple semesters, trying to, work a little bit. So it's definitely new to me, but it's exciting.
And you are emblematic of something that's happening with a lot of young men right now, in the fact that college dropout rates or transfer rates are significantly higher for young men right now than young women. And some of the graduation rates right now, about almost 2/3 of college graduates right now are young women compared to young men. So we're seeing this big gender flipping in graduation rates. What do you think is causing that or influencing that? You're not alone in this.
I think kind of going back to what I had said initially, I think it's just like a lot of feelings of loneliness. And I think it really comes down to, again, that self-doubt and letting all these pressures externally kind of get to you. I think it does come, maybe from men suppressing their feelings, but I realized that it was really hard for me when I was going through that to express like really how I was feeling. And so that's definitely something I've been working on. And I think it kind of made me realize like, that's, those things are true, that guys definitely struggle with that.
Was there a moment that you realized like, oh, wow, I'm suppressing so much?
Through the whole thing, I would talk to my girlfriend, and I'd share bits and pieces. And I felt like that was the most I was sharing with anybody. Like I wasn't talking to anybody except her. And then that's when I realized, I was like, wow, I really haven't been open with my feelings and stuff, because nobody around me knew what was going on. And so when I told my parents, that's when I really realized, I was like, wow, you need to really get this stuff out there. You need to just get it out and work on it. And then when I got back to school, I had never been good at like sending emails and stuff to professors or whatever, but I think being able to express my emotions like to professors and like what was going on, because also at the time I had torn my ACL, and
so
I got
just adding insult to injury.
Insult to injury. Yeah, I was home for a couple of weeks, and I got the surgery and everything, and so I had a lot of time to like reflect on it and work on it. And then when I went back to school, I think I did a much better job of expressing how I was feeling to, kind of my community.
And what was that impetus? Like, who taught you, or how did you learn how to, as a man, express your emotions in that circumstance?
I think it's more so like just, I mean, I'm still not good at it, and I still don't express my emotions to this day. But I would say in those sporadic times where it was really just telling people like how you feel and like what's going on. And that's like something that I feel like, you know, people don't do that enough. It's like, wow, this is how I really feel.
Yeah. And I mean, we were having a conversation the other night. Also, by the way, Joey's my cousin. And we were having a conversation the other night about whether or not men have emotions.
Okay.
What is your stance on that? Do men have emotions?
I mean, absolutely. Men are human. Everybody has emotions. I think, you know, you go through this whole roller coaster of emotions every single day. And I'm someone who genuinely I like to be hyped most of the time. I like to be amped up.
You should have seen him when he walked in here. He was like, let's go.
Yeah, I was super excited. No, because it's a cool opportunity. But I think you just got to experience all those emotions 100%. And, you know, when something's getting you down, you got to turn to those close to you and share it.
So one of the ways that this podcast started was in 2020, I started asking men what the hardest thing about being a man was. And I kept getting the answer, 1, it's so lonely, or 2, I can't express my emotions, or I don't even know what my emotions are. How do you figure out, like maybe when you're feeling anger, how do you figure out what is actually beneath that anger?
I would say anger is really interesting to me. Also, going back to my dad is definitely someone who I've very rarely seen angry. And he just doesn't get that angry. And I think that's definitely something that was passed down to me. I feel like I really try not to get super angry. But I would say it's more so like emotions of just feeling down, like sadness. Those are the hard ones to really like put out there. And it's like, you know, because you never want to be. I was someone who, I remember when I was at school, one of my friends had told me, he was like, oh, dude, Joey, like, you never change up your mood. Like, you're always the same, like kind of hype. And I was like, and that's when I realized that was my best friend at the time. And he didn't even know like that I was experiencing this whole other side. And so, but when I heard that, it kind of brought me back to, okay, that's who I am. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's who I need to be, because that's what people are expecting, right? I got to be this guy. And because I love that. I lived for the hangout. That's what I always said. I lived for the hangout. And so, yeah.
And you were telling me the other day that sometimes how you would be able to figure out whether your friends are doing okay or not was you guys would go play catch together. Can you tell me a little bit about that process?
I could talk. We could make a whole podcast about talking about catch, but I think the game of catch, I realized in college, is a lot deeper than you would think. The way that me and my friends would go about it is, you know, we would go to the beach or we'd just hang out on campus. We'd even find like a little street in between like two of the buildings or something. And we just kind of found that playing catch was like our best way of like seeing how we like feeling out the other person, you know? And so it was a great way to kind of, it's like driving. Like I'm a big driver. I love to drive. And so I feel like it's a great way to like just kind of process your thoughts. And especially for guys, it's a great way to not talk about them. And so, but when you're playing catch, it's like your boy or your guy over there, and he's making a couple bad passes and he's not catching the ball. And it's just like, okay, I can tell something's on his mind, right? And so we'll just kind of be like sitting there, I'll be like, yo, you good? Like, is everything good? And, you know, it'd be like, if he wants to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But for the most part, you know, he'll be like, yeah, I'm all good. I'm all right. And I'm like, all right, let's lock back in. Let's do it. And so then we'll get a couple balls going. And once you get those perfect balls between each other, just good passes, you realize like, okay, we're back. Like, you know, like he worked that out in his head just by us playing catch, you know?
Yeah. Have you ever been playing catch and your balls were a little wobbly?
For sure. And
you were wishing that someone would ask you how you were doing?
I would say it's more so like, you know, like afterward, he'd be like, geez, Joey, like you could not throw for shit today. Like, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of thinking about some things. And then if we get into it, we get into it. But I don't know if I really see, that's the thing. I don't think I really want people to ask. It's more like when I'm willing to say it, you know, it's like, I'm willing to bring it to the table. I think that might be a different thing.
Yeah. I think that's very different between
men and women.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, I will drop 100 hints, but I won't bring it forward until someone asks me. And then I'll be like, thank you for asking. And it gives me permission to talk about it.
That is definitely that's a stark difference, because I would say that I would, for the most part, like when someone asks me if it's like when you fall on like your bike or something and someone nearby asks you if you're okay, you're kind of like, oh shit, they saw that and they're asking me if I'm okay. Like, but it's more so like, I don't really, I wouldn't say I want to be necessarily asked, but it's like if my boys, or if I go up to them and I'm like, oh man, this is something shitty I'm going through. And like we were talking about the other day, it's like, then they could share something shitty that they're going through. And it's like, okay, like we're both going through the trenches together. Like we're going through this.
Do you guys ever give each other advice on how to like go through the shitty thing? Or it's more like you say something shitty and they say something shitty and then you guys like have evened out the shit?
I mean, I think definitely there's room for advice, but it's not always necessary. It's like I'll give my input and I can kind of, you can feel that out with how your friend's being. But it's like I'll give advice and then I know you got to know when like to back off, because it's like, sometimes like my friend might be talking about his girlfriend and it's like, there's kind of something that maybe stands out to me and I might give a little bit of advice, but then at the end of the day it's like, nah, like he's got that handled,
like he has to figure that out.
Yeah, he has to figure that out, right?
Make his own mistakes. Like if you see a guy making a mistake in his relationship, do you tell him, or you're like, just figure it out?
Well, I mean, there's definitely people close to me who are in interesting relationships. Shout out to my little cousin. But, I think it's just mainly just being supportive. I would say as a guy, it's like my friend right now, he's back home with me and he's like working on all this soccer stuff. And I realized like the best thing to do is just be supportive. It's just be like, I'll text him and be like, yo, how'd that training go? Like, and he'll be like, oh, like I killed it. I'll be like, tough. And if he's like, I bombed it, I'm like, all right, on to the next. I was like, yeah, tough, on to the next. Yeah.
What was that phrase the other day that like
ball up top?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Okay. So it stems from the phrase, what do you call it? Ball up top. It used to, fuck it, we ball. Right. It stems from fuck it, we ball, which is like, something shitty happens. I remember the amount of times when it was finals, especially at Miami, and my friends, we would all come back home and we'd just be like, how'd it go? And he'd be like, oh, fuck it, we ball. Like, we're still good. But then that phrase came about when I told that story. Should I say it again?
Yeah.
So this guy on Twitter, he had all these old tweets about how he wanted to be a dad so bad. And so then eventually he puts out, he's in the delivery room and he has this new baby. And he's like, I have this new baby girl. And everyone's congratulating him. And then his next tweet was, turns out she wasn't mine, ball up top. Which in basketball, when you say ball up top, it's like, oh, let's reset the play. Like, get the ball up top, we'll reset the play. And so it's kind of like, hey, like, let's reset and keep going, like ball up top.
Do you feel like that's where you are right now in your life? Are you in a ball up top moment?
I'm definitely in a ball up top. I'm looking to my right. I'm looking to my left. I'm making sure my guys are on the wing, and I'm ready to drive. I'm ready to drive to the basket.
So, Joey, you were a basketball player back in high school. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be a guy on a sports team and the pressure with coaches?
Coaches, I mean, definitely. I had a detrimental coach to my life. I hate this guy. So, no, I think being on a team is actually, it can go either way. I think it's probably one of the best things for me growing up was always being on a team and always being part of that environment and just having something to work towards with my guys. And that was great. And I loved them. But I would say having a coach can be iffy. I had great coaches and I had really bad coaches. And so those kinds of things, especially for young men, you need to have those mentors in your life. And so speaking from experience, having a coach that was just, like I said, detrimental to my confidence and all this stuff was definitely hard.
I think that's something that's a lot more common in male sports than female sports, of like putting you down as a way to motivate you. What do you,
definitely. So my coach I have so many things written about this too. I could pull them up, but my coach in high school was definitely someone who kind of had adopted that old framing of mindset where he wanted to create like competition amongst the team so that we were like against each other, trying to push each other to be better. But it wasn't a team at all. It was, oh, let's go against each other, trying to push each other better. But it wasn't like a good competition. Like I've had great competitions in my life that pushed me to be better. But this was more so splitting us apart So we were like each on our own like islands trying to fight each other for that, top spot. And so I think it's crucial to have a good mentor, but someone like that it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, role models have a huge impact on who you become, or mentors, and whether they're a positive or an anti-role model too.
Exactly. Yeah.
How, as a man, did you deal with kind of the humiliation at play, and also ultimately having to leave the team?
So, yeah, I mean, I would say for me, this is at a time where, like, and it's still definitely been something for me where I realized just working out was super therapeutic. And I remember there were days, one day I didn't get to play because I had missed one class or something like that. And he had told me that I wasn't playing. And I just remember I went outside onto the track, like right before our game. And I just ran 3 miles. Like I was just like, I gotta get out. I gotta work out, just because it's like a therapy. And like I said, it's definitely a way to process your thoughts. So that's kind of what I lean back on for that support in high school, prior to really delving into my emotions. And I would say also writing. I realized like when I was in school and I had the ability to write about some of these things, I figured that writing was also a good way to express myself.
Yeah, and you're a great writer, so that helps there.
I appreciate it.
I had a friend who told me that the place he could be most vulnerable with his guy friends or his brothers was at the gym. Do you feel like gym or sports give you an excuse or an ability to be more vulnerable? One, emotionally, but two, the other piece is male touch. Men don't often hug each other the same way that women do, but something happens on the court or off the court where men are like hitting each other's butts and like hugging tight. Can you tell me a little bit about how that happens?
Yeah, I think it's like when you're in those environments and like, especially like pick up basketball and things like that, it's like all we're doing is it's us versus them. You know what I'm saying? It's us 5 versus those 5 guys. And so it kind of creates this environment, I would say, where I'm only building up the guys around me and they're only building me up. And I think that's where it comes into play, where you see us run up to each other and we're, smothering each other out on the court. But it's like, it's purely just to build each other up, I would feel like. And that's like what makes it so powerful. And I think that it comes back to catch. Like, it's like catch is like, you're just building each other up.
I like that. And I think there's also something about like there's so much emotion in sports that it actually like it's impossible to be emotionless.
Exactly. I would 100% agree with that. I think that you see the best players have the most emotion. Tears, everything. Like Jordan's jumping up at half court, swinging his fists. Like it's because you have to play with that emotion. If you're not playing with, it's the same thing as like writing or anything. If you're not doing it with passion and emotion, you're not doing it right, and you're not giving it your all. And so I think that's why when like, you and like your friend are playing really good, or who your guys are all playing really good, it's like, God, like we're so emotional together right now.
That's awesome. Maybe that's why you're a little more in touch with your emotions. You've gotten to be able to express that on the court.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Joey, so you've talked a little bit about basketball. You talked a little bit about college. You also joined a frat in college. Can you tell me a little about what it means to be a man, why as a man you join a frat, and what it does to you?
I would say that joining a frat for a lot of guys, I think comes from, you come into college, and a lot of people always talk about you come into college and you kind of experience this ego death and you experience all this stuff, right? Because in high school, it's like you were the shit, right? And then you come to college, it's like, whoa, everybody's the shit. And so I think it really comes from a loss of identity. At least for me personally, I would say that was my personal experience. I've realized like when I was in high school, everything was basketball. That's all I really knew. That was my like first passion. I would say that's my strongest one I've ever had. And so coming into college and kind of losing that, and then especially my sophomore year, which is when I joined the frat, because I had torn my ACL, it was just something to kind of lean on, right? And so it was kind of like a fallacy in a sort of sense, because it's really not something to lean on, right? It's really not something that you want to become your whole identity. And so when I wasn't able to play basketball and kind of get back to homeostasis, it was definitely what I turned towards. And I think it was an interesting experience and something that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. But am I happy that I got out of it? For sure. But my times in it were definitely fun. And I just think it's not the whole frat thing, I don't think was necessarily built on a structure to like, it's like they always talk about brotherhood and all this stuff in it, and that's like one of the biggest things is like you have this brotherhood, but it's not really built on a foundation to support each other. I would say.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean not support each other?
Well, you spend your whole first semester in it getting torn down, getting torn to pieces, and then after that it just is like, you're friends with these guys, but you're just kind of, you're participating in degenerate activities together. I don't know if you're necessarily, doing the most productive things with one another and building each other up. It's just I feel like what it honestly was is a lot of frat guys played sports in high school and weren't able to make it to the next level, as so many of us fail to do. And so when you get to that point, it's kind of like it's rooted, like you see it when people play like die and when people play all these like things, it's like these like fake sport things that kind of bring back a little bit of that emotion, but you're not really feeling it, and it's not 100%. It's not authentic.
So it's like creating a team, but without a sports team.
It's like creating a team without necessarily like a real coach, and without necessarily like a huge culture behind it.
What would you say the goal is?
I mean, I think it's definitely rooted in women for sure. It's definitely rooted in having the most fun you possibly can. And I think, a lot of the thing is like afterward, yeah, you have a good amount of connections after school, like from that aspect, but it's definitely rooted in just having the most fun you can, and women for sure.
Tell me about women.
I think, like at the time when I joined the frat, I was single. And it's like at a school like the University of Miami, it was like the only scene for like guys, and unless you wanted to spend $400 at a club or something like that. But it's like it's like creating this environment where you have these parties everyone goes to, and like, everybody, and it just creates like this false community.
And I think what's interesting about that dynamic too is that sororities are not allowed to host parties.
Yeah.
So it creates this dynamic of like, oh, if you want to go to a party and you're a woman, you have to be good with the guys.
Yeah, and it's like
it's a power dynamic. That's crazy.
I would see that a lot. I would see a lot of the girls, like they would, try and be friends with a lot of the guys, and like it was just like a way to get in, especially in Florida, because Florida they're not even allowed to have sorority houses because it's considered a brothel. Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
So yeah, they would. I mean, all their meeting points were at our stuff.
Wow.
So it was like, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, where I went to college, at Tufts, there weren't frats, a huge frat culture, but our sports houses had a big frat-ish culture.
They can become like that, for sure.
They can fill the gap. And I remember, like, my freshman year, I was at a lacrosse house party, and they...
That's like frat, basically.
It's like, it is frat. And I remember, like, going outside, and I was looking for a friend's wallet in the grass, and then... I remember hearing the captain come out and be like to the guy guarding the door, was like, no men are allowed downstairs, and only hot freshmen are allowed downstairs. And I remember just like listening to this and being like, oh, no wonder there's like 90% vulnerable young women down in the basement of this house with just the lacrosse team. Like, it was just crazy. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is just normal.
It's stuff that you would never like really think of happening. I mean, I remember like one of the frats at Miami, not ours, but they throw like a huge lingerie party every single time, and it's like all the girls show up in lingerie. It's crazy. I don't know how
they just have the excuse of a party to throw this.
I don't know. The guy who created it, that's in some insane critical thinking, but I mean, it's definitely it's all this stuff like you said, where you're kind of like, you sit there and you're like, whoa, like this is really a real thing. Like this is definitely like an interesting place to be.
Yeah. No. And I think the other piece to me that's fascinating is it's like, oh, we're going to create this brotherhood, but you have to be so humiliated before joining this brotherhood.
Yeah.
And in another episode of the podcast, I was talking to a friend, Oscar, who was talking about hazing in the immigrant community, of basically like when you come to the U.S., putting new people who come to the U.S. within the immigrant community through a lot of hard things, rather than being like, oh yeah, let's create a community and build a relationship. Yeah. And we were talking about the parallels to that, to frat culture. But why do you think it is that these young men in these frats like feel the need to make other young men's lives like miserable, and if not, put them in danger?
Well, I know for us, it really dated back to the start of the frat, which was rooted in these military guys. I think they were all in like World War II or something, or actually probably prior to that, they were in some war. And they, like, because they were in a war, the next group of guys wasn't that joined, and they were all like, well, you had to go through what we went through in this war. That's what that's what they would tell us. And so I know that's where it really started, was like, you got to go through what we went through. And so then it kind of becomes that cycle where it's like, you got to go through what we went through. You got to go through what we went through. And it's like, I personally never got the whole hazing thing. And I knew that if I stayed at Miami, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I know a lot. I see it still because I'm in all the stuff, and all of my guys, especially ones that I thought would never do it, are getting big into it.
Like hazing the next group.
Hazing the next group.
Yeah. There's something inside of you that's like, if I had to go through this, then you must suffer too. And I honestly think that, kind of zooming out a bit, it's also what's happening with men right now. Like, a lot of older men in their mid 50s and 60s are like, we don't have emotion. Men don't have emotion, because they had to go through suppressing it their whole life, not crying, not showing sadness, or leaning on their girlfriends. I was just watching a reel on Instagram from this like alpha male account. And part of it was like, men, like, you're not supposed to show anything, like that's a sign of weakness, and if you do, like, you're ruining like our history of manhood, like very, very kind of dominating. Why do you think it is like that? How do you interrupt these cycles such that one group doesn't make the other group suffer?
I mean, I think it really is coming, nowadays, expressing emotions and like therapy and all that stuff is definitely coming more into light. And I think that could be a good change, but it's definitely a cycle of abuse. I was very fortunate that my dad never put that on me, but I definitely had some friends. Like, I remember I had one friend in high school who was like, you should never cry in front of your girlfriend. And I was like, that's interesting. I remember going back to my dad and asking him about it. And he was like, no, like, it's okay. Like, you know, you can express that emotion. And so, and
it's going to make you a better partner later on.
For sure.
Like, vulnerability begets vulnerability, and unless you get deeper in your relationship, like it would be so surface level to have a relationship where there were no emotions attached to it.
Exactly.
Who are your role models in like film and media?
Okay, I would say growing up, and people know this about me, was definitely Tom Brady. I would watch the same Tom Brady documentary every single time we were in the computer lab in middle school, and I would say he was definitely one of them, just because of his mentality. My dad,
like
for sure.
Like discipline or what?
Like discipline and winning, and the thing that really spoke to me when I was little was the fact that this guy was like the 6th round draft pick like 199, and they just went out on a whim, and then he ended up becoming the greatest quarterback of all time. Yeah. And so that was super inspirational to me. And then outside of him, I would say a lot of basketball players.
So a lot of sports.
All sports for sure.
Yeah.
All
so
sports
it's like discipline,
drive, nothing crazy. I mean, I really like to hear Obama talk. I mean, but everyone likes to hear Obama talk. So yeah,
he's a great orator.
Yeah, I remember one of my favorite ones that my dad had also showed me when I was little was Fired Up, Ready to Go, and that was I would watch that one a lot, like before a big test and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's so sweet. That's a healthy role model of to have. Like when you now see the kind of men who are role models for guys in their like 14, 15, 16, 17. When you're seeing the Andrew Tates and the Joe Rogans and the Jordan Petersons, what does that make you think of what's going to happen with the next generation of men?
I mean, okay, I think that, you
can have honest thoughts on them.
For sure. I would say, for our generation, we get called soft a lot. Like, it's like, we're like soft and all that. And I think what it did was it kind of created this whole like other movement to be like, no, like now you got to be the polar opposite, right? And those guys just kind of, I think in a sense, they're kind of weak men, you know, and a lot, not maybe Joe Rogan. I kind of like Joe Rogan sometimes. He's gotten a little radical now, but the Andrew Tates for sure, that's like a weak guy. Like, he's just not portraying
what makes him weak?
He's not a good leader. I mean, he's professing all this stuff that is, almost anti-human, like just feeling things and anti being there for people and all this stuff. And I mean, being a man is not necessarily like, I feel like there is some sense of being able to protect and provide safety or whatever, but it's not being like this all powerful guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be, they always say the loudest guy in the room is the weakest guy. And so I would definitely, that guy's loud. Like he is very loud. And so it's like, you have to think like, this guy's loud, but he's all the way in Romania and he's behind a closed door. Like it's all
behind bars sometimes.
It's like these are not, I don't think those are great role models,
So this dichotomy of weak and strong, or soft and strong, how does that shape the way that guys are navigating how to express themselves, or like what they're doing, and what's considered, is there anything that's considered weak that you're surprised by?
That's a good question. I would say the strength part is definitely I don't think it's super bad, actually. I think it's like you want to be strong. Like I think all the gym stuff that they promote, I think is very good for people to, go into the gym and find that space for them. I think is crucial. Other than that, the things that surprise me that are weak is definitely the suppressing of emotions, definitely the not crying stuff and all that. And, you don't want to obviously be too like, you don't want to do it too much. And I definitely try not to do that too much, but it's more like you got to be human sometimes. You got to really let out how you feel. And, otherwise you're not going to make it that far, I feel like. So
on the strong note, there's a lot of trends like the manosphere about like being like more primal. Like how do you get back to the way that men were supposed to be before they became soft? And I have a friend whose brother now sleeps on like a wooden board instead of a mattress.
I mean, that stuff is just ridiculous. It's like that whole Liver King thing too, like eating like primal and all that stuff. I think it's rooted probably in some good practices. Like I said, going to the gym and eating, better stuff. And it's cool how people are like promoting now like protein and everything, and it's just like you want to get a lot of protein in your diet throughout the day. But sleeping on a wooden board, I mean, let's be realistic here.
What about ice baths?
Ice baths are great. I love ice baths. I've been doing ice baths for a while now. I think it's just good for recovery. I think it can easily get too radical, like sleeping on a wooden board for sure. Is like
it's a step too far.
It's a step too far. It's rooted in some good practices, but you can take it way too far.
And I feel like once you're buying into something, it's hard to figure out when it's a step too far.
Exactly. Like, and that's the thing, is that these guys are kind of preying on, and I know all those guys that like are these, alpha guys, they sell these like courses or whatever for people to go into. And that's just a way for them to make money. And that's just a way for them to kind of put these radical ideas into young men's mind.
What does it mean to be an alpha?
An alpha? I mean, I would never personally say that just because it's a little corny, but an alpha.
You just said these alpha guys, so that's why I'm wondering.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of like the Andrew Tates and all that, and it's just kind of like being an alpha right now, I would feel, is like just kind of being loud, being obnoxious, being overstepping, I feel like a little bit. But if we kind of go to the root of that word, like I know it's probably rooted in something good, like just being a providing guy.
What about mewing? Do you know what mewing is?
Like to make yourself look better?
Yeah, can you tell us about that?
I mean, that's, again, I think, if you're someone who's wanting to change your facial structure a little bit or get into that stuff, yeah, I think you could try and get, or like looks maxing, that stuff is definitely.
What is that?
I mean, I think it's, again, rooted in something good, which is going to the gym, making it like getting fit, whatever. But it's taking it a step too far if you're doing that kind of stuff to like, I don't know, I try and get an edge, I guess. Maybe, yeah.
Like it's just interesting to me to see like the woman beauty standards kind of like influencer, basically carve up your face and whatever stuff. Now going to men. I'm like, oh wow, you guys are like, mewing is like, you're like sucking in your cheeks a little bit to give you a jawline. It makes you like basically like a Chad in this world.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, practices that I think are going way too far. If you just go to the gym and you just eat right, like you'll get that viewing look. Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, what does it mean to you to be a man today? Like, there's a lot changing of like maybe your future wife will share provider status with you.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a man?
I think a man, at least in my books, is like I said previously, it's like being a leader. And I think it's
What if you're not a leader?
if you're a man who's not a leader.
Yeah. There's a lot of men in this world. There's not enough room for all those leaders.
Well, I think it's like just being a leader to the people around you. Being, at least I know for how I feel in my like sphere is, and the way that I see it through my own role models is like making, good decisions, and not necessarily good decisions, but just being discerning. Like when decisions come and like obstacles come your way, because you're always going to face them. It's kind of just to be like unwavering in that sense, and like, really try and point the pack to where you want to go, I guess, like, and what decisions you want to make.
What do you wish young men across the world or country knew? Like, say you were talking to your high school self. Is there any wisdom you would impart?
To my old self, I would definitely be like, every decision that you make has an impact on people and has an impact on yourself. And think things through and talk with your village around you, and you should be good by doing that.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I wish that we had more opportunities for men to go back and talk to younger men, to provide that mentorship and to be able to guide them through that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I need mentorship every day, and I think it's something that you got to really seek out. And if you don't have a great role model in your life, I think it's, go join that sports team and hopefully that coach can be a good role model or something like that.
Yeah. I had a professor in college who was like, you wouldn't believe the proportion between men who go to office hours versus women who go to office hours.
Oh,
like,
I never went to office hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, never. I feel like, you don't want to ask for help, but...
Exactly. Yeah. And then where does that lead? And then we see the dropout rates too. It's like, it's very humbling to ask for help, or even like men who study abroad in college. Like the rate is like 35% and women is about 65% of people who study abroad. But it takes planning. It takes humility. You're going to go to a context that you don't know, a language you don't know. But those kind of like humbling acts, like going to office hours or studying abroad or like trying to join a team and being able to put yourself forth to maybe get rejected is like a huge, like, to me, that's what's strong. If you're applying for things, if you're trying things that might reject you, if you're asking a girl on a date rather than just like swiping all day, I'm like, wow.
That's definitely, putting yourself out there. That's being, you're changing your like world and changing your life around you. Those are hard things to do. And in order to do that, you got to make hard decisions and hard steps, and that's putting yourself out there. I think that's definitely something I worked on. I've never been someone who reached out to my professors or went to office hours or did all that stuff, and then only till the very end did I realize that was necessary. I was going to every office hour. I was emailing every professor, and so it's like the help is around you, and I think it's very hard for men to realize that and to seek that out.
And that it's actually stronger.
And that it's actually stronger, and you'll do better.
Yeah.
You'll literally do better. That's what I realized. I was like, wow, I'm genuinely emailing with my professors every day, and I'm feeling better. Like, they know my situation, they know what's going on, and I'm going to be able to succeed more. So I think that's something I want to take to my next institution, but it's also something that I think guys got to do now, because it's like, I saw that. Like, I can agree with you on that. Like, me and my friends would never, ever do any of that stuff.
Never. And would have there been shame if one of you was like, oh, I have to go to office hours?
I think, honestly, in a sense, like, I remember one of my friends would be like, oh, I'm going to this tutoring thing. And we'd be like, dude, come on. Oh, we're about to play catch. Like, come on, don't go to office hours.
It all comes back to catch.
All comes back to catch. You'll realize that in life. Go play catch.
If it's wobbly, you got to reach homeostasis.
Exactly. I really hope that, what'd you say, the dropout rate right now is?
Yeah.
What is it at?
Like, college graduates, 2/3 of them are young women right now, and 1/3 is about young men.
I hope those guys or whoever that are dropping out are going and playing some serious catch and learning things.
They got to go play catch, and they got to go talk to people.
Yeah.
So my final question of the podcast is always, what do you love about being a man?
What do I love about being a man?
Yeah.
I would say definitely I think in some sort of a sense, the pressures is kind of nice. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, people like believe in you, and people like have high expectations for you. And at the end of the day, is it hard and it strains you a little bit? For sure. But it's like, it's nice to be like, people have these expectations for me, and I have those expectations for myself of what I want to be. And it's good to know that that's where the bar is set. Like, that's where I want to go reach. I have high aspirations. And so I would say that's good. I like
and I
that.
feel like with the path you're on now, you're going to reach those high aspirations.
I hope so.
Thank you, Joey, for being part of this podcast. I appreciate you so much, and for all your wisdom, and for being the youngest member on this podcast so far and bringing a voice to the college guys. Thank you so much for joining Joey and I on episode 4 of the Masking Tapes. I hope that this episode was able to give you a little peek into the mind of college men right now and what's happening on the manosphere, especially with some of those new terms like mewing and looks maxing. I'm so grateful to Joey for his vulnerability and his joy and passion that he brought to the podcast. And make sure to share out this episode with family, friends, anyone in your life who you think needs to hear it. Episode 5 will be out very soon, so make sure to stay tuned and follow at maskingtapes.pod on Instagram and YouTube.